I'm an artist based in Sydney, and I make a range of things. It's certainly hard to pin down. I changed my work to suit ideas. I'm very interested in materials and transformation of value in the poetic process of making art. I believe pleasure is really important and crucial in art. A lot of my imagery is about spaces that are, are fictive or romantic or trashy, but they all have an element of pleasure in them. And I also, though, pull things of low value into high or rarefied contexts, such as printing onto silk or curing these kind of cheap commodities into breakable glass, or other ways of sort of distilling that. If I don't feel embarrassed by my work sometimes, I feel like I'm not pushing my own boundaries. Practicing early on, I became quite uncomfortable with painting in general because of how expensive it was to buy brushes, and then also that you're making an image that would go straight onto a wall, and so to explode out of that and just break a lot of rules, a very cheap methodology was to use things that already existed in the world. In terms of my interest in assemblage, I'm always interested in how things, when signs essentially come into play with one another, then a new metaphor could be brought together that I hadn't thought of before. It's only through that sort of experimentation and improv that I'm going to surprise myself. The imagery comes from everywhere. So a lot of iPhone snaps, strange things that I see on the street when walking around that I sort of need to trap or look at longer. There's also a fair amount of digital painting, which I've done through finger painting on screens and also in Photoshop. I really wanted to do was make a space that was very challenging to a gallery space as well. That the idea that it's 10 meters long, and so you need to walk around it to experience the entirety of the composition. That you're very conscious of your body while experiencing the work. I think Gertrude Stein said that sculpture is pretty air. And that idea of creating something that can only be engaged with properly should the body move around it. You fall in love with certain artists from the past, and even though you will never get a chance to have a conversation with them, your work can have a conversation. You can speak to past works or past texts, or there are through lines. And it also reminds you that people have had the same questions as you 100 years ago, and yet a completely different life. And also they probably figured out certain things which you know, unless you do research into art history, sometimes you're not going to pay attention to what was already figured out. My favourite part of making art is this potential for new connections to be made, patterns to be created, to make my friends laugh, actual genuine laughter when you've said something that's super embarrassing or you shouldn't have or otherwise. So you've kind of produced some sort of joy or poetic moment. We've really created a bit of a playground here which has these dumb moments, and also is incredibly complex and intelligent and political, I think.